the installation of an Emass Max bed is fairly straightforward. It will take, depending on the size of the bed, it can take anywhere from, say, 2 weeks up to maybe 5 weeks. Obviously, it depends, again, on the size of the bed, and then are we working at night or are we working during the daytime? There is obviously it's going to take a little longer to do the same amount of work at night than it does to take to do that work during the daytime. In reality, the vast majority of Emass Max beds have been installed during night work. That is not unusual. And those shifts tend to be a little shorter. So again, it's part of what leads it to take a little longer. What happens is with the installation process is our logistics department, about 2 weeks before the start date of the installation, will start to ship out upwards of 15% of the total number of Emass Max blocks via trailer so that they're on site and ready to go. And then when we show up to start, the first couple nights are spent, or the first couple shifts are spent checking the beam for perpendicularity to the runway center line. The beam is actually a very important part to the bed. It has a couple functions. It's obviously the start of the bed, but then it also, on the back side of it, has a 3-inch reveal, which is paramount to the start of the design of our EMAS system. It allows us to start with 6-inch high blocks, but since it's in the RSA, but with the 3-inch reveal, the airplane wheel only sees the top 3 inches of it and falls into the last 3 inches. But what it lets us do is engage the aircraft starting with 6 inches deep of material for a better, quicker deceleration of the aircraft. Once the beam's been checked out and been given approval that it meets all of our specifications, the next night or two will be spent laying out what we call the block grid. Emass Max blocks are all 4 foot by 4 foot, they just vary in height. So we just literally, being perpendicular or parallel with the center line of the runway, we just lay out a humongous checkerboard of 4 foot by 4 foot squares. And then what we do is, again, the trailers that have shown up, we load the bed, we load the trailers in a specific order, because again, we're starting with 6-inch blocks. We ramp up to 20-inch high blocks. So we start at the front of the bed and we use an AC20, an asphalt cement, to glue down each individual block in its specific square. So we just start at the front on one side, go across, and then just start doing the second and the third and the fourth, just working our way backwards. What we also like to do is we get as much done as we can in a shift, and then we have the crew shift over from installing blocks to then starting to apply the seam seal. This way, any installed blocks are being protected as much as we can from the environment as we're going along. And then so we'll clean up so the runway's available for traffic that day. And then we just start the whole thing over again the next night. And then once all the blocks are installed, again, we finish up with a seam seal. We come around and do the side coating and start to take care of punch lists. If there are light protrusions through the bed, take care of those. Any last minute details around those, booting them up to make sure that they're sealed nice and tight. Again, this process can take anywhere from, I'll say, about 2 weeks to 4, maybe 5 weeks with a really big bed, is how the basic standard installation of Emass Max bed goes in. Now, Green EMAS is considerably different with its installation because it is much more of a build-on-site project. Again, Emass Max shows up, the blocks are just all stacked up, they've been manufactured at our plant. What we're really doing is just installing, straight install. Where with the Green EMAS, what we're doing is we have to build it on site. So what happens is the foam glass, the core material, obviously shows up on site. And really the first work we do is, again, there's basically a start to the front of the bed. I don't want to call it a beam, but it's the front of the bed. And then we mill a perimeter of where the bed is going to have its side slopes return into and stop on the three back sides of the 2 sides in the back of the bed. Then what we do is we have some standard construction materials. It's basically a C-channel. Captured underneath each C-channel is a length of what I call construction, the orange construction fencing, the webbing fencing. And that is held upright. So we make a bunch of channels like this, the length of the bed, about 2 feet apart, give or take. And then what we do is we fill each channel with the foam glass. Again, we're doing each part we can, each only amount we can do each night. Once that's all installed, all the foam glass is installed, we come up, we do a very light compaction of it all to get it kind of settled in, get the pieces to key together. We then apply a geotech fabric laid over it. And on top of that, we pour a CLSM, or a lightweight cement material. And that's going to encapsulate and keep the jet blast of the jets from blowing all the foam glass away. And then protect the CLSM from the environment, we apply a basic multi-part paint. And then the chevrons are painted. And that's really kind of a high-level explanation of what happens with the installation of a green EMAS. The fact is, because there's more work to be done on site, the building of the system, it tends to take longer. Oh, with the installation of a green EMAS, another difference between that and a Max is an Emass Max bed, you're really only going to have 3 forklifts, a pickup truck with a large tar kettle out on the airfield, on the runway. Again, because with a green EMAS, we're building the system on site, you're going to see a much larger variety, and some of it being large equipment on site. You'll have cement trucks. You will have some small steamrollers as compactors. You will have some extendable conveyor belt trucks to move the foam glass out to the center of the bed. Things like that. And then the cleanup will require, again, we're building this on site, so there's a little bit more cleanup each night involved. But it's not anything that we don't have a process for, and we haven't done multiple times around the world with different levels of construction capability and equipment available.